The Islanders. So this will finish all the teams that have been eliminated up till the end of the second round. And this is where we get into the sweepers getting swept. And I'm going to throw into this video here at the time I'm recording this. Boston's up 3-0 on Carolina, the team that swept these guys. The idea being, then Boston could get swept in the finals. But Boston would reach the finals, so I'd still be a very happy camper. That being said, this year was a very, very, very good season for the New York Islanders. And I would hope that the loss they suffered at the end of the playoffs doesn't detract from that. But this summer is huge for this organization. Lou Lamoriello comes in, adds Barry Trotz behind the bench as the coach, and ultimately, right away, immediately, the Islanders have that amount of respect. They have that amount of gravitas that the team hadn't had in a very long time. 48, 27, and 7 was the record this year, 103 points. They finished 21st in goals for and first in goals against. Contrast that with last year where they finished 35, 37, and 10 with 80 points, so 23-point difference. Goals for, they were actually 8th. Goals against, they were 31st. Now, what's interesting is when you look at the totals from this year, Barzal had 18 goals and 44 assists for 62 points. Last year, 22 goals, 63 assists for 85 points. Bailey, he had 16 goals and 40 assists this year. He had 18 goals and 53 assists last year. Nelson, 25 goals and 28 assists this year, actually much higher than last year, where he had 19 goals and 16 assists. Anders Lee, 28 goals, 23 assists, but last year he had 40 goals to go with 22 assists. And Eberle, 19 goals and 18 assists this year. He had 25 goals, 34 assists last year. So offensively, everybody except Brock Nelson took a step back, which is weird. Then you look at the goaltending, they pick up Robin Lehner on the scrap heap from Buffalo. 25, 13, and 5 with a 2.13 goals against and a 930 save percentage. Not bad. Greiss, 23, 14, and 2 with a 2.28 goals against and a 927 save percentage. Oddly enough, Lehner gets votes for the Vezina. Greiss, I guess, didn't. Greiss was pretty darn near equal to Lehner all season. They were right 1 and 2 with one another. Last year, they had Halak, who was 20, 26, and 6 with a 3.19 goals against and a 908 save percentage. And interestingly enough, they had Thomas Greiss, who was 13, 8, and 2 with a 3.82 goals against and an 892 save percentage. So Greiss went from an 892 save percentage to a 927, an improvement of 35 percentage points. That's crazy. And that shows just how team-oriented this thing really is. And this isn't just a matter of, they got Lehner, that made all the difference. Greiss really turned it around as well. Now, when you look at their record, on November 10th, they were 8-6 and 2. Mediocre. November 29th, they were 12-9 and 3. Still mediocre. And December 6th, they were 13, 11 and 3. After that, they went 35, 16 and 4. So they got better fast. December 15th till January 5th, they won 9 out of their 10 games during that period. January 10th to 20th, they won 6 out of 7. February 7th to 16th, they won 5 out of 6. So as the season went along, the Islanders got better. Everybody bought in. The goals against average kept coming down, while goals for became more and more of a challenge. The thing that the Islanders need to figure out this year is how to get that goals for back up towards the 8th place that it was the year before. And I understand, and people are going to say, well, that's the loss of Tavares. Agreed. That's where the Tavares exiting to go to Toronto shows up, is in the goals for. But the team got better, and I don't know that we necessarily get a ton of goals out of whatever lineup they put out there next year, but they need more than they had this year. And they do need that premier forward. Barzal, I like Matthew Barzal. I don't know that he is necessarily a number one premier forward for a playoff team. He was not the number one forward they had in the postseason this year. They went 4-0 in the first round against Pittsburgh. They had 14 goals for and 6 goals against. No problem scoring there. Then they met Carolina. Carolina beat them in 4 straight and outscored them 13-5. So there were definitely some scoring issues that showed up in that second round that weren't there in the first. We can attribute a lot of that to Mrazek and then McElhinney, but honestly, there is something here that does need to be resolved. Now, the tricky part is they only have $47.8 million tied up in salaries for next year, and the salary cap could be as high as $83 million. They have lots of space, but they also have lots of spaces to fill. Eberle is a UFA. Nelson is a UFA. Lee is a UFA. Filppula, who had a really decent bounce-back season with the Islanders, UFA. Kuhnhackl, UFA. Spiza, UFA. Leonard, also UFA. So if they decide to keep Leonard, they go for Lee, Nelson, Eberle, it's going to eat into that cap space pretty fast. That's going to eat up a lot of money. And then the restricted free agent market, for them, they don't really have much to worry about. Beauvillier will get a raise. Del Cole will not. And Josh Hosang is a restricted free agent. At this point, would anybody be surprised if they don't even qualify him and he just goes as an unrestricted free agent? Hosang has seemingly played his way out of their future plans. And when you look at the future for the New York Islanders, it is quite bright. Noah Dobson, who I don't forecast him being ready this season, and there really isn't anybody who's necessarily going to jump in and make a big difference for this team next year. Oliver Wahlstrom, college freshman, had a slow start, considered leaving school due to that slow start this year, didn't. Ilya Sorokin, who will be the future in net for them, but he's signed in the Continental Hockey League for one more year. So he will be spending a minimum of one more year playing overseas before he comes over. Bodie Wild, who slipped to the second round last year, I still think he could end up being a steal for them, but again, he's a ways away. Kiefer Bellows may get a shot. His totals this year in the AHL weren't great, but Kiefer Bellows' dad scored 485 goals in the NHL. He'll get a look. He will get a look. He's a former first-round draft pick. He will get a look, and they'll see what they have in him. Otto Koivula comes over, and I'm sorry if I butchered that last name, but Koivula came over and opened some eyes in the American League this year. Sebastian Aho, who played 22 games last year, confusing everybody because he has the exact same name as the kid playing in Carolina. Well, guess what? I think he'll be back next year. I think he'll have a spot on the roster. His numbers in the American League have been really, really solid, and you can always use another puck-moving defenseman. But Lou Lamoriello doesn't rush people to the NHL. So you may see Bellows, you may see Aho in their lineup right from October on. I don't know that we see any other rookies coming up with the Islanders next season. Again, I think they need to do some work on their goal scoring and on not seeing guys regress further. And if they lose an Anders Lee, which would be frustrating if they lost Lee because he's their captain. That'd be two captains in 2 years. But if they lost Lee, and if they lose Nelson, they're going to have to replace those goals. So it's not just a matter of we were 21st. Now it's we were 21st and we lost two of our best goal scorers. Now we got to get it together. I think ideally, I would like to see Matthew Barzal shoot the puck a little more than he does. I know he's not a goal scorer. I get that part of it. But if he was able to keep defenses honest by the point that, and goaltenders too, where they're not just playing the pass. They're not going, it's 13 has it, he's going to pass it. Make them think you're going to take that shot. Make them fear that you may not be quite so predictable. And you know, that could go a long ways to getting him back to a point a game. But we'll see. The Islanders are going to be the sexy pick as the team that surprisingly made the playoffs and now they're going to crash out. That's going to happen this summer. I'm already calling it. Regardless of what they do with unrestricted free agents, there are going to be a lot of people saying they had a nice run this year, but Philly's going to come back. New Jersey's going to be better. The Rangers look like they're going to be better. The Islanders are probably going to fall back. So for Islander fans, get ready for this summer, hearing about how that was a fun ride while it lasted, but they're not going to be able to do it again. And I will say this. They were 31st in goals against a year ago. Now under Trotz, they were first. Realistically, I don't know how they hold on to first place for 2 years in a row. And I do foresee something of a clawback when it comes to their points and to their totals. As I've pointed out here, up until the first week of December, their numbers were mediocre and middling. And now they're better, but for how long and how much. So a lot of question marks when it comes to the New York Islanders, but they're going to be a very interesting team to watch this summer. And let's see if they're able to improve things. If they can hold on to the guys here that they have without spending too much money to keep the whole gang together, they might be able to add to the roster, but we'll see what happens July 1st. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.